Murolo. Welcome to the Trails Collective interview series. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Nice to see you here.
Good to see you too. So, Fred, you are one of the hosts of the Cultra Trail podcast, who we've mentioned frequently in the Trails Running News Show. And you have a very impressive running resume that we will get to talk about. But first, let's start with when and why did you start
I really never ran when I was in high school. Like, unlike a lot of the people that I run with, I just played regular sports in high school, like, regular team sports. And then when I got to college, it became something that you couldn't do anymore. And I wanted to do something to work out. So I started running. And it was something that I found pretty early on that I really liked. I just liked the feeling of it. So on it went. I started in 2020. I started in 1977 for, in earnest. So it's been a few years.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So what was your sport in high school?
I played football, I played hockey, and I played baseball. My favorite was baseball, probably.
Okay. You're running around the bases.
Yeah.
Similar. Nice. I was actually a ball sport person in high school too. I didn't really run. I mean, we had a track team and I was on it, but I really just was on it to hang out with my high school boyfriend. We didn't do any real running. But yeah, I was a volleyball and basketball player back
Okay.
then,
Yeah.
so I can relate.
Yeah, same thing. And when you're in high school, you think like these sports are going to go on forever, right? Because you're with people your own age, and then all of a sudden you're out of school, and you're like, I could find someone to play tennis with, I guess, but you can't just get like 20 people up, like to play softball or baseball or something, So
Yeah, I find that that's when most people transition to becoming the armchair expert, and they watch it on TV, and that's how they relive their athletic glory, is watching it on ESPN.
right. Yes. Yeah. So you can sit back and criticize like Major League Baseball players, even though
Yeah.
you were a sub on your ball team or something, right?
Like, oh,
Yeah.
I could have made that 3-pointer. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. All right. So you have a very impressive running streak going. Let's just get that out right now. You are almost at 14,000 days running. So did you consciously decide to start this, or did you just realize I've been running for 2 years and I've never taken a day off? Why don't I keep going?
It was closer to B than A, but the way it started was I had, been running, but not really consistently. And I would take whole seasons off. And I sort of tweaked my knee running in the fall of 1981. This is right, and then it got better. And right before New Year's, I thought in 1982 I'm going to be more consistent. I'm going to try to run at least 300 days that year, and at least 1,000 miles. So instead of taking 4 months off at a time or something, I'll try to like just be more consistent, hold myself more accountable. And so I started on December 30th, 1981 to get a little jump on it. And I kept thinking as I was doing it, I'll hold that 60 days back. Like, there may be a time when I want to take a month off. So I just kept doing it every day. And then the whole year was over. And I was like, okay, that really wasn't that bad. I could run every day. And I didn't really have a major goal in mind, but I can remember talking to my sister on the phone over the holidays after I'd gone one whole year. And she was like, you ran a whole year? What, like, what's up with that? What are you like trying to run for like 10,000 days in a row or something? And I thought, no, but then, I thought maybe, who knows, and then I started being more conscious about it. So I would say starting year 2, I was like, okay, I have this running streak. I have to run every day. And I want to run every day.
So how many miles do you run a day? I think I lost you there for a second.
Oh, no. Are we back?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I said,
yeah,
how
you
many
froze.
miles do you run a day, about approximately?
As I've gotten older, I've run more, I think. Not now, but in my late 50s. So 4 or 5 years ago, I was averaging about for running over the course of a year, I was averaging about 11 or 12 miles a day.
Oh, wow.
And I would mix in some walking. So I had a couple of years in a row where I was over 5,000 miles total between running and walking. But last year was just under 4,000 miles.
Do you
So
do like speed work, or was it just basic like base mileage, easy mileage?
I do a lot of base building. So, what people like to call junk miles, but
Best kind, just like junk food.
yeah, exactly. And but I have no problem with doing like junk miles. But last summer, one of the guys who he's actually a classmate of one of my kids in the local high school, and he's in the Connecticut Trail Mixers group, and he posts a lot. He's I think he just turned 16. He started this what he called Tuesday Speed, where he would get people in our hometown to or the surrounding area to go to the track, and that was the first time I'd done speed work probably in at least a decade. I still like to do it. You gain a perspective as you get older, like what used to be speed work, I mean, is no longer something I can do, and what used to be, like what used to be a tempo run for me now would be like what's a tempo run for me now used to be something slow, but I still do tempo work too. Like if you just run one speed, you feel like it,
Yeah,
you're barely moving. So you gotta break it up.
it's all about effort, really. I think most of the time for me, anyway.
Yeah. So when you think of like your slowest junk mile run, that would be a tempo run for me, probably. If I could even do it. It might be a race pace, right?
So, have you ever gotten injured and then still ran? And then what's like the daily, like say you were injured, what's like the daily hobble that you would have to count?
Okay. Yeah, that's the ugly side of streaking, but yes, I've been injured, and my minimum is 2 miles.
Okay.
And the first time it happened like that, it really made a difference. I was in law school, so I was in my 20s, and I'd been running I'd been running like 3.5 years then, maybe something like that, and I pulled a hamstring playing softball, and uh, like the kind of pulled hamstring where you're going to get like the purple on the back of your hamstring and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Like you definitely did something there. And so I just wrapped it really tight and went out and ran 2 miles a day for about 2 or 3 weeks, I think. And that's the first time I realized that having a running streak and deciding that you're going to keep the streak going is not necessarily the best thing for your overall health, but you can convince yourself, because you can convince yourself of almost anything. You can convince yourself that the act of healing is better for you than just sitting around. So I did. I was like, warming my hammy up and, and loosening it up and everything is probably good for it, even though it's pulled. So,
Do you do
it came
any
back.
racing?
Yeah. Yes, I do. I don't, when I first started, I did a ton of short races. I hadn't learned, like about what ultra marathons were yet. Those were like behind a veil for me. But so I did the first year of my running streak, I think I ran 20 to 25 races, and they were mostly 10Ks. And I peaked at like my best 10K time was was very mediocre, but I got like as fast as I could get. I think it was like in the low 38s. So not great, but like, yeah, and in the last 10 years, it's mostly been 100 milers or multi-days. So that's what I'd really like to do. My best year, my optimum year is 400 milers and one multi-day.
Okay. So when did you get on the trails? When did you discover all the beautiful trails that I'm told about in Connecticut? And how did that start?
People have told you they're beautiful.
Oh, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah. Oh, well, no, they really are. The views are great, and I really like the woods of Connecticut, but they're not that easy to run because there's rocks everywhere. It's just rocky. But I think that my discovery of running trails probably came to pass about the same time I discovered ultra marathons, because the two kind of go together. And so I realized, like, oh, you don't have to run on roads, you can run on trails, and oh, you don't have to stop at 26 miles, you can actually run as far as you want. And that was probably like 15 years ago. So, you know.
And then, so 100 milers are though like your favorite. What do you like about them?
Well, for me, it's like you live your whole life in 20 something hours. Like you start out feeling good. You have to manage nutrition and hydration. You start to feel bad. You feel really bad. You have not just a physical feeling of not being that great, but there comes a point where you like emotionally have to fight the urge to quit. Like your mind tells you things like, oh, you've done this before, you don't need to keep going. You want to like have these epiphanies as to how it's not important to finish, and you have to like claw through that, and then you come out the other side and you feel like $1 million. And it's really, I like that feeling of like starting out on the starting line feeling great, and then like going through this thing where you're like up and down and then really down, and then by the time you're like at like mile 85 to 90, you're like, oh yeah, I can do this. And then you speed up and you finish and everything's good.
So have you ever dropped out of a race?
Yes, yeah. The first 100 miler I ever did, I quit at mile 68. And it was Vermont, the Vermont 100, which is, mixture of trail and dirt road, beautiful countryside, rolling hills the whole time. And I had never run 100 miles before, and I had no idea what to expect. And what I found was that I was not prepared. I just wasn't gritty enough. I wasn't prepared for how hard it was going to be. And around mile, like between 50 and 60, it gets harder. And then it got dark and it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I had blisters and, insert crying emoji and stuff. And like, I got to an aid station. I was like, oh, my blisters are killing me, I'm going to stop. And I was so mad at myself the next day. I was like, oh God, I can't believe I did that. It's like, I'm such a wimp. And so, yeah, I dropped out of that race. I never have dropped out of another race, but I had a funny experience last December. I dropped out of the first 100. I then ran and completed 40 100 milers. Then on the next one, which was last December, I had this weird vapor lock mentally where I thought I was done, and I was actually a lap short of finishing. They were very short laps. There were 3.5 miles in this park in Florida, the Ancient Oaks 100, and you have to do 29 loops. And I finished loop 28, and I was convinced I was done. And the people were like, "You're not done. You got to do another loop." And I was like, "You guys are messing with me. This is BS. I'm done. I'm completely done." And I like just sort of stayed there and like was like talking to them and stuff like that, and wasted enough time that I really just didn't have time to finish. Once I finally realized, like, wait a minute, what time of day is it? I was like, oh, I'm really not done, am I? What, like, how did that happen? Because I was so sure that I had finished 29 loops. So I had a little meltdown, I guess, somewhere along the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you didn't just like, well, it's just 3 miles. Like, I mean,
I was pretty.
I've never been let that demoralized at the end of a 100 miler, so I can't say that. But I mean,
Well, here's the thing. I was like, I had spent that day like socializing with a bunch of people, and I really had. I was not running hard, and I was just sort of taking it easy and making it so I would finish relatively close to the cutoff. So I did not have a lot of time to spare. So by the time I realized that I had screwed this up, I would have had to run my fastest loop of the 29. And it was like, I had started at 7 o'clock on Saturday morning, and it was now 2:10 on Sunday afternoon. And I would have to do one more loop. And I was like, I just don't really have time to do this. I'm not going to get it done. So I guess I'm done at 28 loops and 96 and a half miles, which was really lame. I got home. My wife was like, "You did what?" That's like the lamest thing ever. But yeah, I did.
Sometimes it's just we call it a day. I mean, Courtney DeWalter, arguably the best ultra runner of our time, she dropped out of her first 100. So, it happens.
Well, I had to. That first one was a great learning experience for me. I had to learn that you just have to be stronger. That there will come a time where, I don't know that. I guess if Courtney could drop out, then anybody can. But I learned that you just have to be tougher. There will come a time where it will challenge you and make you want to quit, and you just have to say no and finish it. So I learned that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that I still will have to learn. A lot of people ask me when I'm going to do my first 100, like it's a thing that I just want to knock off my bucket list. That's not how I want to race my first 100. And so I just don't think I'm ready for it. Like you said, I'm not gritty enough yet. And I would rather wait until I'm at least more gritty before I attempt something like that, because I want to crush my first 100. So no, you make me feel like I've made the right decision.
I honestly think I was already old, but I think that it's part of what makes you able to do 100 is a kind of knowing yourself and being able to get the most out of yourself, which is easier to do when you're older. Notwithstanding the fact that a lot of 20 somethings go and kill their hundreds and become national class or international class runners, but you have to be one of those people who is really in touch with your ability to hold it together even when you don't want to.
Oh, there's a cat behind your head.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel a cat there.
Oh, hi, kitty. Yes. So tell me about, let's get deep here. Tell me about, you just run 100 miles and the next day you have to get up and run 2 miles. Yes. What does that feel like and how do you do that?
Okay.
Do you let yourself walk them or what do you do?
Oh no, there's no walking. That would be like crying in baseball. Preach. No,
no walking.
No walking. You wake up the next morning with if you start 100, you might finish the same day because you're quick. But
I better finish the same day or I'm not doing 100. My God, yeah. I don't like the dark. I've never ran in the dark. And so if I do 100, it's not going to be dark.
Oh, you know what? You should do Vermont probably, because Vermont starts at 4 a.m. and you can finish it before it got dark then.
All right. Sold. Yeah. And I even listened to your episode with the race director, I think Jonathan Boss. And I was like, oh, nice.
Yeah, you could do that. So, for me, 100 is a 2-day, I've already done 2 running days, right? I start on Saturday morning and I'm going to run after midnight. So I've already done Saturday and Sunday. So we're talking about Monday morning. Yeah. I have to get up and run 2 miles. So I've actually gotten a night's sleep now. And I get up the next morning and, you run 2 slow miles. It's really not that bad. One of the races I really like is Umstead down in North Carolina, and I've driven down there every year from Connecticut, and it's about 600 miles. So generally, I would stay there Sunday night and run Monday morning in North Carolina. But the last couple of years, I have driven back on Sunday. So I would get up Monday morning and I'd be really tired having driven 600 miles on Sunday after running the 100 Saturday and Sunday. And that's hard. It's hard to just get out of bed and do the 2 miles, but you just do it because, that's what you do. And you convince yourself, just like with the pulled hamstring, you convince yourself this is good for me. It's loosening everything up. It's got to be good for me.
See, my thing is after long races, the longest I've ever ran is 9 hours. And even it's just my feet the next morning, they are I'm are these I feel like the bones of my feet are going to shatter. And I just can't, like, I can't imagine. I mean, I could psychologically, but I just don't think I could even like imagine like I'm running on, my bones are made of glass and they are going to break if I move. And so yeah, I mean, you must get used to it, but yeah, whew, I can feel my feet right now, like how they feel after a 50 miler, and just oof, good for you.
Is that like 9 hours on trails, or have you ever run
Oh
like nine
yeah, it
hours
was
on
nine
pavement?
hours on trails. Like
Yeah.
I do tend to choose the like flatter roads, but yeah, no, just yeah, just my feet, I guess. I don't know. And
It's something you get used to.
yeah.
The first time I ran a multi-day race, like a 72-hour, I was on pavement, and there were times during the race that it's just like you had the sensation that the bones in your feet were like being pulled apart. They were so sore, so sore. Yeah, and you get used to it. I think your nerves must deaden after a while or something.
Seriously, you've been running for 14,000 days. So you don't have any nerves in those feet. They're probably
Probably.
also like leather on the bottom.
I I have a friend who runs most of his miles barefoot, and his feet look like they're like hobbit feet. They're all spread out and everything, and really leathery on the bottom. But not me. My wife says that my feet are like I'm a tenderfoot, because like the day after a race, I'm always like padding around like ow, 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 But you
Yeah,
know,
I read Born to Run, and for about 30 seconds, I was like, that makes sense. And then I was like, but I like shoes.
mm. Yeah, and well, the barefoot runners will tell you like, oh, I really like running on pavement because it's an even surface. And I always think like, you run barefoot on pavement? That's like nutty to me. But yeah,
Oh, well, they know their bodies.
that's right. Yeah.
So in the podcast with Cultra, you mentioned that you had ran in a blizzard. And so I want to know like other crazy things that you've done to get your 2 miles in. Like, now we're seeing people running around a table or running on the helipad and all that stuff. But I mean, you're the OG. Like, come on, you must have ran in some places like airports or something.
I have not had to run in an airport, although I was prepared to last year. I had to go to Europe to meet somebody, and it was like a red eye to Sweden, and then I had to connect to Poland, and I was thinking that I wouldn't have time to run when I got to Poland, so I packed everything so I could put it in a backpack so I could run in the airport in Stockholm if I had to. But it turned out I didn't have to. Like, the timing was such that I knew when I got to Poland I'd be able to run a few miles, so that was fine. But yeah, I had to run in the blizzard. The worst thing wasn't the actual snow like coming down. It was the snow that was on the roads and stuff. So that wasn't easy. I ran the afternoon. I waited till the afternoon, the day of a hurricane back in Connecticut, and that was tough. I saw a lot of devastation when I was running, and like you have to make sure you're not running into down power lines and stuff like that. But I did that. But I think one of the harder runs I had was when I turned 50. My wife said we should take this trip to Key West. So we decided to fly to Miami and drive down to Key West, which is a pretty long drive, but it's beautiful, driving through the Keys. And we got this really early flight down to Miami, and my wife said to me, you should probably just run when we get there. The weather's going to be beautiful. My birthday's in December, so the weather was not beautiful in the morning. So she said the weather will probably be beautiful. We'll fly into Miami, get in at like 9 in the morning. We will drive down to the Keys. When we get to Key West, you can go for a run. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, that's gonna be fine, no problem. So we get in, we get the rent a car. It takes us like, I don't know, like 6 hours to get to Key West. And now it's like middle of the afternoon, like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. We get to the hotel, and the hotel people are like, oh yeah, your room's not ready yet. And so I was like, oh yeah, I can't really like change, go running. I mean, it's in all the stuff's in my suitcase. But they're like, so because your room's not ready and it should be ready, we're going to give you 2 drink vouchers. go out to the pool bar, and you can get 2 free drinks each. So we went out to the pool bar, and I had a couple of drinks, and then they came and said, "Oh, your room's ready." And I was like, "Oh." So I had to change and go running after a couple of rum runners, and that was really hard. 5 miles after 2 rum runners.
I bet.
Yeah.
You were training the gut that day.
Yes. Yeah. But that was really that was a very unpleasant run. I got back and I was like, oh my God, it was really warm and humid, and I just had the 2 drinks, and I was tired from all the travel, and I was like, it doesn't get any worse than this. So.
Oh man, I mean, and your birthday too, right? So
Yes.
that way to kick off the trip.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good times. Something to
So
remember.
what's your favorite 100-mile race that you've done?
That's a tough one. I've done some really nice ones. I haven't done like the iconic ones that people think of. I've never done Leadville or Hard Rock or Western States. I did do the Headlands 100 in the Marin Headlands, which is really beautiful. I've done Umstead in North Carolina 13 times, so I guess I like that one. It's in the springtime. It's just when all the flowers are coming out and everything. It's really a beautiful time of year there in North Carolina. And the Vermont 100 is really nice. Vermont's such a pretty state, and so that's nice. It's in the middle of July, so the weather though is absolutely unpredictable. I ran it once when it was like mid-70s and beautiful. I ran it once when it was 90. And I ran it another time that it like got up to the high 80s, and then there were drenching thunderstorms starting at midnight, like for the rest of the race. So that's a little iffy. But yeah, I guess those are some of the ones I really liked.
Okay. So to close out, why don't you just tell me about what your racing plans were for in 2020, and considering we're not really sure what's going to happen, but a lot of them are canceled. Do you have any other goals instead, or are you just gonna keep the run streak going? Obviously, but yeah, what's going on?
Okay, my plans were, I ran one race this year, one real regular race this year, which was the Frozen Fat Ass 50K on Cape Cod, which is really awesome. It's really fun. On the beach, basically in Cape Cod.
Who doesn't want to go to the beach in this winter?
In January, I know the weather is never good. It's always.
I hate racing in the winter. I really don't like it. I just have stopped.
No. So your first 100's not going to be the Winter Beast of Burden then?
Probably? I don't think so. I want my friend. I have a friend, Pete Kressock, who does that every year, and I want him to keep that crown.
Okay. Yeah. So I did that race, and then I was planning on doing Umstead again for my 14th time, but that of course was canceled. I had planned to do the 6-day race at 3 days at the fair in Western New Jersey. That's canceled. Well, it's actually moved to the fall, but I'll do it at the end of September. But that was in May. That's canceled. And I was entered in the TGNY 100 around New York City. That's been canceled. And I'm still entered in, which I don't think it's canceled yet, and I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen, in the Viaduct 100, which is actually probably not that far from you guys. It's in northern Pennsylvania, like not that far from Binghamton.
Okay.
So the Viaduct is I've run that 5 times, and I really like it. It's like backwoods, and it's almost like a fat ass race. It has no entry fee, and it's just you're pretty much on your own. So that's possible that race could still go forward in July. I will see, but if not, I'm hoping to be able to do that 6-day in September, and I'm also hoping to be able to do the Ancient Oaks 100 again down in Florida, which is in the end of December, and it's like usually the last weekend before Christmas. So I've done that 8 times, and that's the one I just messed up last year. So I would like to go back and redeem myself, count count properly to 29 and get that one done.
Just do an extra one, like a victory lap.
Yeah, I actually thought about that.
Maybe they'll give you the one for the year before.
Yeah. Yeah, I should negotiate that with the RD. He's pretty straightforward though. He's always said, like, there's no partial credit. You can't say you did a 50 miler here. It's either a DNF or you finish it, that kind of, like, pretty by the book, so that could be a tough sell.
Well, thank you for joining me on this lovely interview. I learned so much about you. This is great, and you have so much experience, and it's really admirable. And I think that your approach also to streaking is, besides the hamstring thing, but like you also were like very helpful with how you dealt with that. So I think this is really approachable if somebody wanted to start streaking. And so yeah, maybe people who watch this, they will start their own run streak.
Yeah, you definitely can. A part of the whole, there are two things about run streaks, and one is that most streakers, I think, fear that if they didn't streak, they would just take too much time off. So that's why they do it. But the other positive thing about it is that you develop a mentality of thinking of your running as a continuity. I'm not just running today. I'm running yesterday, today, tomorrow, and like on into the future. Like it's a big long line, and I think that really works for some people.
Yeah, I definitely think so. All right, Fred. Well, I look forward to listening to you on every Cultra podcast. I think I'm coming to your podcast on Tuesday. To talk
oh, fantastic. Great.
It'll be fun. We can just continue the conversation.
Yes. Yeah. Great. Then we get to interview you and find out about your running history and everything. Great.
Yeah, so it'll be great. Well, I will see you then, and have a wonderful evening.
Yeah, you too. It's been a pleasure, Ellie. Thank you.
Thank you.